So we've been waiting about 15 years for a brand new Toyota 4Runner, and we've had a chance to drive a lot of trims. In fact, they are incredibly powerful. They have available hybrid powertrain. They have the most off-road capable technology that Toyota has ever produced. In fact, that one right behind us is the all-new Platinum grade, the most luxurious 4Runner that Toyota has ever produced. However, the big problem with that trim over there, it costs $65,000. 65 grand is how much you used to pay for a Lexus GX, which you could still get a Lexus for that money. So if you guys don't have that much money to spend, Toyota has a simple solution for you. Buy the base SR5 trim. This is the one that we have right here, a 2025 Toyota 4Runner SR5 with four-wheel drive. It costs around $45,000, and Toyota says this is the trim level that most people tend to choose. So if you guys have been in the market for a new 4Runner, how does the base model stack up to all of the much more expensive higher-end trims? Let's take a look. So as the most affordable model in the 4Runner lineup, you're probably wondering what is powering this vehicle underneath the hood, because if you guys remember the old 4Runner, it came standard with a 4-liter naturally aspirated V6. Well, I'm sad to report that the 4Runner has dropped back down to a 4-cylinder as the only powertrain. Remember, Toyota used to offer a 4-cylinder as the base engine, but this is definitely a much better powertrain versus the old 2.7-liter naturally aspirated unit. This is also a 4-cylinder, but it's a 2.4-liter gasoline direct injection turbocharged engine. So unlike the other 4Runner videos that we've shown you before, this model here doesn't have the electric portion, but it's still a turbocharged engine. It makes 278 horsepower and 317 pound-feet of torque. If you're keeping score, that's around 8 more horsepower versus the old V6. But it also has substantially more torque at over 300 foot-pounds. It all goes out through an 8-speed automatic transmission. So that's 3 more gears versus the previous generation, which topped out at 5 speeds. Now, rear-wheel drive is going to be standard. However, if you guys want 4-wheel drive, Toyota will offer that for about $2,000 extra. It's their company's part-time 4-wheel drive system, which our test car here is equipped with. Fuel economy drops to around 19 in the city, 25 on the highway with 4-wheel drive. It goes up to 26 if you guys go for rear-wheel drive. So that's actually pretty darn impressive that this thing can get over 25 mpg on the highway if you guys go for a rear-wheel drive model. The fuel tank capacity dropped to around 19 gallons, so you're looking at around 400 plus miles of range on a full tank. That's of course on regular gas. Toyota has upped the towing capacity of this model to up to 6,000 pounds, which is 1,000 pounds more. And as this car sits, it weighs in at around 4,400 pounds. So it actually about weighs the same as the previous generation, despite the fact that this vehicle is riding on an all-new platform. So that's very, very impressive. But let's go ahead and close up the hood here, which, as you can see, is held up by a prop rod. However, even the high trim models that we showed you guys also use a prop rod. So really, Toyota isn't kind of cheaping out there. Looking at the rest of the styling, our particular test car couldn't be more anonymous for me. It's basically black on black. So this is basically just the free black exterior color. It doesn't even have a special name. With the black interior, you can see the SR5 grade looks a little bit more basic from the front end, I'll have to admit. You can see the Toyota grille has a completely different finish on it. It's completely unpainted finish in the actual grille insert. You have the chrome Toyota logo there. No specific badging, as you can see. But you do still have, of course, the radar sensor here for the Toyota Safety Sense 3.0, which is standard. You also still get LED fog lights, which I was surprised by. And then you can see the headlights are also an LED, but it's not a full LED. So you have an LED low and high beam, but the turn signals are an incandescent, as opposed to the upper trims, which have a premium LED with fully LEDs for the turn signals and for the daytime running lights. This model here does not have LED running light signature. So instead, the high beams come on at lower intensity. That is the daytime running light. These headlights kind of remind me of a base Toyota Tacoma that we've shown you before. The one thing I don't like about the new 4Runners and the Tacoma is that front air dam. That really will improve the aerodynamics, which is how Toyota got better fuel efficiency. But that, to me, just looks bad. A lot of owners, I imagine, are going to take that off. This model here doesn't have any skid plates, underbody protection. You have to go up to the TRD models, obviously, to get that. But this vehicle still comes with around 9.2 inches of ground clearance. So it comes with a pretty good amount of ground clearance for a car that is, again, designated as the baser trim. Now, moving around the side profile, you can see this is built on the new TNGA-F architecture, just like the other trims of the 4Runner that we've shown you. And this is where you can really see more of the bare bones, designation, the bare bones vibe of this model. Now the wheels, those are the specific 17-inch wheels that you get with the SR5. I'm actually surprised to see they're a 17. They look more like a 16-inch wheel, I have to admit. It's riding on a Bridgestone all-season Turenza tire. Riding on a 265 by, I'm sorry, not even 260, it's a 245 by 70 R17. So it's actually a 20 millimeter wider, 20mm skinnier tires versus the upper trims. But like I said earlier, you still have the same ground clearance. The over fenders here are completely unpainted. You have an independent front suspension along with a live axle in the back. No adaptive dampers or fancy shocks, anything like that. This is, again, the model that you're probably going to find on rental fleets if Toyota actually put 4Runners in rental fleets. Now you can see the mirrors here. They're completely unpainted. They also are not power folding, but they are still foldable. No 360 camera, obviously no integrated turn signals, no available sunroof. You can't get a sunroof on an SR5. There used to be an SR5 Premium that would roll that in, but not anymore. You can see these roof rails. These pretty much are included. They hold up to 770 pounds of static weight, about 165 pounds of dynamic weight. The door handles are also unpainted. So if you guys get this car in white, it's gonna look pretty cheap, of course, with the unpainted plastic fenders, with the door handles, with the trim around the vehicle. There's an SR5 badge here, which again, Toyota says that most buyers actually choose the SR5 trim, although I suspect most buyers are now going to probably go to the Limited or the TRD Sport or TRD Off-Road trims, because Toyota unfortunately doesn't offer that premium package that they used to offer in the previous generation. So let me know in the comment section below if you think Toyota should bring that back. Now looking at the rear, you can see taillights are a full LED, which surprised me. You can see they're not an LED combination. The turn signals, the brake lights, the housing, all fully LED, along with the rear reverse lights. There's that Toyota badge of here at the back with the 4Runner spelled out. No additional badging here. There was just that, basically that SR5 badge at the side. And then looking at the rear bumper, you can see it's completely unpainted. You still have a tow hitch, and you also have a spare tire, although I believe it's more of a temporary style spare tire as opposed to the actual full-size spare that we've seen on other trims. I like the fact that Toyota kept the rear spoiler. I remember when the 4th generation came out, you could see a 4Runner with and without their spoiler, but now it's standard, which I think looks a lot better versus those generations without it. The rear wiper is still kind of tucked away underneath here. You have a 3rd brake light, obviously, and then this window still folds down or powers down, but it's not going to work right now while I have the vehicle on. But there's a button back here, or you can also use the remote to open up the tailgate. Now, unfortunately, when you do go for this trim, you lose the power liftgate. So kind of keep that in mind. If you want the power liftgate, you have to step it up to the TRD Sport, of course, with the premium package, or it's standard on the Limited. But here's something we haven't had a chance to show you guys yet. Without the 3rd row or without the battery pack for the hybrid battery iForce Max Powertrain, you do get more cargo space. First of all, the floor is just much lower. So this helps to improve the rear cargo capacity here to around 48 cubic feet of space with the back seats up. That's 6 more cubic feet versus the hybrid Max Powertrain. You can see there are some storage areas here along with some cup holders, because you can get an optional 3rd row on the SR5 trim for an extra $770. It's around $1,300 for the Limited. Let me go ahead and fold down the back seats here so I can show you guys that. You can't fold it from the back seat area, unfortunately, but when you pull on this, you can see the seat will kind of flip and then catapult forward. Now, unfortunately, this is the most you're gonna get, because if you want to basically leave it flat, this is what you get. So it's not a completely flat floor, so that's kind of a problem. But when you have it basically in that position, so in this position here, Toyota says with all the seats folded, you get a little over 90 cubic feet of storage space. 90 cubic feet is actually a lot. That's around 8 more cubic feet versus the models with the hybrid powertrain. But the one thing I'm a little disappointed about the fact is Toyota couldn't design that rear seat to fold flat in a way where it actually gives you a completely flat floor, so you can load a lot more cargo space if they gave you that ability. So on the outside, the SR5 trim definitely looks a little bit more basic, but when you get inside, this is where you're going to find more of that basic theme. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing if you guys prefer a more simple interior. As you can see, the wind is extremely violent here. We are just south of San Diego, California, but as you can see, this interior here has the standard cloth seats. Toyota offers it in a choice with either gray or black cloth seats. For a cloth seat, I have to say, they are actually not bad. Typically, I am not a fan of cloth seats because they feel cheap and scratchy. Toyota does a good job here in making the cloth fabric feel a little bit more premium. You also have this kind of interesting triangular texture weave in the actual fabric seats themselves. The seats are not heated nor ventilated, and they are also manually adjustable. So you have a 6-way manual adjustment for the height. You can also adjust the tilt, obviously, and then move it forward and back. But kind of keep in mind, if you guys want powered seats or the leatherette seats, the Softex, you have to step it up to the TRD models or go for the Limited. With the TRDs, you have to add a premium package to kind of get that feature. Now, getting inside, you can see the step-in height is a little bit on the higher side. No running boards on this trim. When I shut the door still has a relatively solid sounding thunk, and the one thing that actually surprised me is the steering wheel is still actually leather wrapped, so you don't have to deal with a cheap feeling polyurethane steering wheel, which is kind of a nice thing. Obviously no heated steering wheel, but you still have plenty of buttons here on the steering wheel, which is again an unexpected touch for a base trim. Now, looking at the door panels here, you can see, unlike the higher trims, it has been completely downgraded with cheap hard plastic materials. This would have been nicer if Toyota had at least padded this Thankfully, it is padded down here. And then with the window controls, they are still one touch up down for all fours. So I'm happy to see Toyota didn't remove that feature. Obviously, you don't really have power folding mirrors anymore. No memory seats, like I said. And then looking at the key fob, you can see this is Toyota's intelligent access key. It still comes standard with that. There's no Toyota script here on the back where it said 4Runner in that technical camo print, but you can see no power liftgate. And I also lied, you can't roll down the window from this fob. You actually have to use the button back there that I showed you on the liftgate. Now, at least it still comes with push button start, so button is right here where you'd expect it to be. Push the button, it has a traditional starter noise, obviously, because this is not a hybrid or a mild hybrid. It just comes standard with the iForce engine, which is a 2.4 liter turbo. Now the engine itself, it definitely doesn't sound great. I mean, let's be honest, 4-cylinders don't make the best noises, but remember, Toyota used to offer a 2.7 liter 4-cylinder on the previous generation. Now, once you're inside here, you can see there's a significant downgrade here in terms of the tech, but at least Toyota still gave you most of the software features that you want. The base model 4Runners will come standard with the 8-inch Toyota audio multimedia interface. The one thing about this screen at 8 inches, it's literally the same size as the previous generation screen where it topped out. However, what I don't like is there's a lot of unused black real estate along with the gray real estate. It just looks really cheap. It looks like you basically didn't want to spend enough money to get the larger 14-inch display. I almost think Toyota needs to offer a display that's in between this. I think that a 10-inch display would be much more appropriate. They should at least get rid of the black border surrounding. I could deal with the gray border, but the combination of the gray and the black border makes it feel like you really skimped a little bit in terms of technology. Same goes with the instrument panel. You can see it's got a 7-inch LCD cluster in the middle. However, on the outskirts of it, you have an analog for the coolant temperature and for the fuel gauge. It looks, again, like a little too cheap and cost-cutting, but at least it does still give you a partial digital and analog experience. The steering wheel is a manual tilt and telescoping arrangement. You do have a good amount of adjustability here to find a comfortable driving position. Obviously, no paddles on the wheel. The horn, it actually sounds pretty decent tone-wise, considering the size of this vehicle. It doesn't sound cheap. Like, I'm glad Toyota didn't put a puny-sounding horn in it. Now, looking at the dash materials, just like the door panels, it all feels pretty cheap. There's more of that gray plastic over here. There's still that little storage shelf. You have kind of like a grayish painted plastic area there with some shininess. There's a lot of dust all over this vehicle, so I apologize because it's been extremely dusty. However, it just looks very bare in here. It looks very dark. It looks very just kind of depressing, if I'm being honest. But again, you bought the baser trim, so if you guys want more colors, you want lighter tones, Toyota will happily sell you a higher trim vehicle to get that. Now, thankfully, when you put the vehicle in reverse, you still get a backup camera, which gives you trajectory. It has no parking sensors, which means it probably doesn't have cross-traffic braking, but at least the quality and the resolution is actually pretty decent. My phone is connected via wireless Apple CarPlay, as you can see. I can enlarge that a little bit to kind of get rid of the little Toyota or the native bar off to the left. But again, this screen, the software is fine. It just looks like you probably should have ponied up a little bit more to get the higher end screen. However, it does cost a pretty hefty penny to go to the bigger screen, so I gotta keep that in mind. Surprisingly, when I pushed that, it still has embedded GPS, so I was not expecting to find the cloud-based embedded GPS in this vehicle, but most of you won't use that. You're gonna go back to the CarPlay and use the embedded GPS that's in your phone. That's what most people tend to use anyways. Looking down here in the center stack, you do actually get heated seats, so I lied. I'm sorry about that. You do have 3-level heated seats with the cloth, so that's standard. That's also an unexpected touch, but as you can see here, the climate control system is just a single zone manual. So I remember Toyota used to actually put a dual zone automatic as standard on the 4th generation. But as you can see, they kind of downgraded here. You can also get a single zone automatic on the TRD Sport, I believe, but this trim, as you can see, your fan speed control is over here, your temperature is over here, which that to me doesn't really look like much. Like, that's supposed to show the temperature you have it set to, but what does that actually mean? Obviously, I'm going this way, it's making the air hotter. Go this way, it makes the air colder. So that to me is kind of a cheaper touch. Don't really like that. You still have heated mirrors at least, which is nice. No wireless phone charging pad, but there is a place here where you can put your smartphone. You have 2 USB-C charging ports there, which is nice. Still have the storage. This controls the 8-speed auto. You have your drive mode selector here. There's basically just normal, eco, and sport. There's a tow haul mode, and then you can adjust your 4-wheel drive system from 2 high, 4 low, and then again, lots of blank buttons here to let everybody know that you didn't get specific options to include some of those features. You have cup holders here, slightly padded vinyl material over the center console area, but this is just as shallow as what you find in the hybrids, so a little disappointed that Toyota didn't want to make this center console a little bit deeper. Above me, you can see no sunroof is available, but the seats are surprisingly still comfortable and supportive. but this material over the headliners do feel a little bit cheap. You can open and close the rear window from back here. There's like a little switch that you can see rolls down the window, which again is power. That's nice that it's included even on the base or trim. And then if you look at the glove box, you can see it's pretty big. It's damped, but not lined with felt. It offers a lot of additional storage over there. So that's a really nice touch, obviously. But let's go ahead and hop into the backseat area. I can show you guys what that space is like. Now, as you can see, that kind of interesting pattern cloth kind of carries over back here, and literally the wind just blew the door shut for me. But when you get back here, you have the same legroom, 34.9 inches. The seats do feel like you're sitting up a little bit high because again, body on frame construction kind of raises up the floor. Headroom space is actually pretty decent. Material quality back here is the same cheapness from the front, completely unpainted door handle here, hard touch plastic. Still has a cup holder right here, but the windows, like I said, still one touch up down for the rear, so that's a nice touch. It is padded right here where you'd rest your elbows. And then in terms of legroom and storage, you can see there's a slight hump over here. You still get 2 USB-C charging ports. You got the AC 120 volt power outlet, and you also still get rear seat air vents. So that's great that Toyota included that along with the 2 storage cubbies. And then this armrest also still folds down. You get 2 cup holders. And if you guys want to get more comfortable, you can see this seat still kind of reclines. It offers decent amount of comfort, but I am a little surprised that Toyota didn't want to make the legroom a little bit larger. They gave us 2 more inches versus the previous generation, but the 4Runner before was kind of cramped in the back seat. This is now pretty average, but keep in mind more of the car-based SUVs are just going to offer more interior space for legroom and even for headroom. So if you guys are looking to get your hands on the all-new 6th generation Toyota 4Runner, but you are also on a budget, this is where the SR5 trim quickly comes to mind, because this is again where the 4Runner starts at around $40,770. That price tag is actually only a couple $100 more expensive versus last year's 2024 model, which, as you guys know, dated back all the way to 2009. So is the base trim actually worth that starting price? Well, first of all, as you guys saw, the look of this car on the outside still is not bad. There are some elements like the cheap wheels, which you could easily swap out with better looking wheels, more impressive tires. You could also get a different color if you guys don't like the black on black look, although I think any other color would probably make it look even more cheap. The interior still features pretty comfortable seats. The tech in the car in terms of the software is good, but I really don't like that 8-inch screen. I think that Toyota should really be putting a 10-inch display in this model. Just something in between going from 8 to 14 inches I think is a little bit too much of a delta. In terms of the powertrain, that 2.4 liter turbo I think is still really good. I really like that powertrain in the Tacoma. In the 4Runner, it still moves this thing out pretty nicely. And the ride quality still reminds you of it, that it's a truck, but it also is a much more refined truck, so kind of keep that in mind. The hybrid powertrain has a lot more cost and complexity. This is just going to be a simpler vehicle overall. Now, speaking of which, if you guys are looking to get your hands on this model, they are heading to dealerships as we speak, and pricing, like I said, $40,770, add around $2,000 if you guys want 4-wheel drive. With the running boards that my test car has and the $1,490 destination charge, you're looking at $44,590. So $45,000 is definitely too expensive for me. In fact, if you guys want to step it up to a higher trim, the TRD Sport will cost you around $47,000. Really, it's closer to 50 grand when you add all-wheel or 4-wheel drive and the destination charge. So this is about 5 grand cheaper versus a TRD Sport when you have it comparably equipped. Now, Toyota used to offer an SR5 premium trim to kind of be in between the TRD Sport and the SR5. I kind of think they should consider offering that again, but I also think that this model is too expensive. For what this car looks on the inside and on the outside, I really think the price should be under $40,000, but that's kind of just where we are in today's modern era. These body-on-frame mid-size SUVs have just gotten crazy expensive, but just keep in mind, compared to that Platinum that we showed you in the intro, this vehicle is around $20,000 cheaper. It will drive mostly the same aside from the adaptive dampers and the hybrid tech in the Platinum, but for those of you who want the simplest 4Runner because you want something that you're going to modify, you're going to add your own off-road goodies, your own wheels and tire packages, your own accessories and whatnot, this is kind of a good baseline, but I do think that Toyota should consider offering something in between the SR5 and the Premium, and it would be nice if you can find this car for really under $40,000. But with all that said, I hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on the base version of the 4Runner in the SR5 trim. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.